All right. Thanks, Uli. Okay, so we're going to get started now, and I'm just going to walk you through a presentation, and then hopefully we can turn this into a dialogue as quickly as possible. I hope this is casual. I'm just a guy who lives on the North Shore, and I'm happy to talk to anyone here or anyone in the area about anything related to technology. It's my passion and something I've been doing for a long time. So yeah, without further ado, I'll get started and tell you a little bit about what I do at Elastic and what some of the cool things Elastic is up to. And then there's some other parts of this slide that I've kind of added, or this deck rather, that I've added that are more so relevant to the times that maybe some of you might be interested to talk about and explore as a group together, mostly dealing with remote work and such. So without further ado, going forward. So most of you, many of you are probably familiar with Elastic as a search company, the makers of Elasticsearch, the very popular open source search engine. So when we look at the traditional Elastic stack, we have Elasticsearch nestled nicely in here. There's Kibana, many of you are probably familiar with it, and then Beats and Logstash, all these infrastructural tools. So something that's kind of new with respect to Elastic's overall vision is the idea of solutions, and we'll unpack a little bit about what that means. So I'm here in particular to talk to you about the Elastic Enterprise Search solution and the products that are contained within it. So yeah, the core, I guess, vision of enterprise search as a solution is to search everything anywhere. So imagine just very many cases where you have data and you need to search it, and enterprise search is hopefully going to give you tools to help you do so. The power of search is very ubiquitous. It takes you maybe one action anytime you open a phone or a browser to realize that search is really at the core of most human computer interactions. It's very versatile, it's very effective. Yeah, the search bar is something that we all know very well. You can't go to very many websites or do much at all without interacting with search in some way, shape, or form. So in particular, Workplace Search is the product that I'm the team lead of. So I'm here as a representative of that team, I guess, and Elastic. So what Workplace Search does is apply that same philosophy to search everything anywhere to your own internal data. So as this screenshot indicates, you have Confluence, GitHub, Jira, OneDrive, Google Drive. For some reason, we've decided to make work very difficult, and we've put absolutely everything we need across 20 different applications that we have to rifle through on any given day. And generally, it's becoming very exhausting to manage all this information, which is where search in particular can shine. So that's the product that I work on, and we'll show you a little bit about it in action as this goes forward. So enterprise search, talking a little bit about a little more about what we hope to bring to the workflow or the business that you have to make things operate even better, which is just the ability to deliver the most relevant search results anywhere, whether that's through through APIs that you build or through applications that you develop. And to bring search to market as fast as you possibly can. So traditionally speaking, if you were to start to build search from the ground up, so trying to conceptualize something like what Elasticsearch does or what our solutions do from the, a blank slate of code would take you a very, very long time. And there's a lot of significant challenges you'd have to overcome to effectively develop and release search. So we have made tools to make that easier. And getting search developed is one part, but then making sure it can scale is the other effective part. So making sure that you have good, reliable tools that can be with you no matter what volume of data you need to search through and how many people are conducting their searches is of great importance. So again, I guess this is just a big version of the vision, which is just we want to allow you to surface the most relevant results from search anywhere. So the Elastic Enterprise Search solution actually contains 3 products. So Workplace Search, that's the one that I work on. I will talk more about that. App Search, that's a pretty cool one. And Site Search, which is a bit of somewhat of a legacy platform at this point in time, but still very effective, and we'll unpack it a little bit. So, excuse me, Workplace Search is the ability to instantly search across all the tools you use at work. So again, just to list some: Dropbox, Salesforce, Google Drive, G Suite, Jira, Confluence, and many others, including your own custom sources. So how can you securely allot groups that can search in different ways, provide a search experience? We'll get into that one, it's pretty cool. Elastic App Search. So if you had to build search, what is the cleanest set of APIs that you can use? We have a Search UI open source library to help you get started. It's based on React, or works very well with React and really any language. but really the purpose of that is to give you the tools you need to build search. And then once you've built it from a code perspective, tools that you can manage it really easily through dashboards. So if you want to set up synonyms or tune relevance, things that could be very complicated, we've really distilled down into these nice functional dashboards and similar. Site search is a legacy product that came in by way of acquisition. It's basically similar to app search, but it contains a web crawler, and we're building one for app search as well. So, maybe we don't talk about that one so much, but app search and workplace search are very cool, and they come bundled together, which I'll show you all soon. So just to talk a little bit about some of the use cases that people have applied search for. I mean, this company, Elastic, and SwiftType, the company that Elastic acquired to provide some of these different products, has produced search for some very big names and across very many use cases. So SaaS and web applications is probably the most common one. E-commerce stores, it's very effective, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with the power of that. You go to Amazon and search for things, and you can see how empowering that is to the Amazon business. Mobile apps, geolocation search, application dashboards, so maybe internal metrics collection, all sorts of things. Internal search, self-service, support case detection. There's so many different things that you can do with search. So I guess when you look at business outcomes, so the effective result of quality search is increased productivity and proficiency. That's a big one. If people can find the information they need, they can just do their jobs easier. So internally, if you're applying search, people can get work done quicker. Externally, if people are using search to interface with your website, they can find what they need a lot quicker. So quicker conversions and things like that. A lot of improvement in self-service. So gigantic support organizations that used to have to field a one-to-one relationship of customer issue to analysts to help them has been able to leverage search and big knowledge bases to significantly drive down support costs. We've seen a lot of those cases. And again, increasing conversions is a big one, and lower the customer effort score. So how hard people need to work to do what your applications and things want them to do is a significant boon of search. It's very, very good at that. So as I said before, we've helped a lot of very big companies build search at tremendous scale. So we're talking terabytes of data and thousands and thousands and thousands of search requests that we've helped people realize over time. And we've gotten quite good at helping these things run at scale and giving tools to get them developed quite efficiently. So really one of our core goals and things that we've done pretty well is just improve the ability to bring very effective search to market as quickly as possible. So yeah, this is a little bit about app search. So this slide indicates just how app search can be used to take a very complicated problem in search and provide tools to make it a lot quicker to develop. So basically just turnkey search templates, right? We have a reference UI built in, so you can make these changes to your search experience. So you can build synonym sets, curation, so that's curating your result sets, tuning relevance, and all sorts of other settings, and then giving you a UI that you can very quickly roll into production from there. So I won't get too into a lot of what they offer here, because again, my wheelhouse, I guess, is the workplace search product. So we'll get into that in the demo. So in terms of how we offer these tools, there's kind of two main ways today that you can get them going and try them out for yourself. The first one is self-managed. So you can just download these binaries and spin them up on your local machine. And that's what I'll do in these demos, just running binaries that you can download today and there's a significant amount of these features are available under the basic license, which means free. You can get a whole lot of this search goodness without paying anything, which is very cool. Something I like about this company is that they let us do that. Elastic Cloud is something that we're investing heavily in, is providing just a very good cloud experience, just to save you from AWS. No offense if anyone here works at Amazon, but oh my, anything to keep me out of that UI, I'm very appreciative of. And I think we do a pretty good job with Elastic Cloud to help roll out search. And when you look at all these options, especially Elastic Cloud, we can really help you scale with ease. And that's why we use resource-based pricing, right? So we don't charge you by very fickle metrics, I guess, number of documents, how many queries, and number of connectors if you're talking about workplace search, or use cases, seats. Those are very costly metrics. Really, we just have one method of extrapolating price, which is just looking at the underlying hardware and infrastructure resources consumed by an installation, and then charging you a very fair rate for it. So it just makes the entire cost structure a lot more simple, a lot more predictable and projectable. In summary, why would you use the enterprise search solution? I know I haven't even showed you yet, but here's why you might use it. To deliver the best possible search backed by Elasticsearch, which has a lot of, I guess you could say, street cred that it's built up over the years. You can search results in very many different ways and use the things that we've built on top of Elasticsearch to highlight some of its best parts and obscure some of that complexity from the average developer or end user. We've just made the tools a lot more easy to use, a lot more accessible. So the ability to get to market quicker and then scale once you get there are other parts of why this solution is an effective offering by Elastic, the company. So I'm gonna do something risky, which is I'm gonna do a live demo, which I didn't even take end to end. We'll see if this works. So just Uli mentioned that she was able to see my screen. So I'm just going to go over to my terminal just to show you what I've done so far. So you can see I have 2 sessions running. I have enterprise search up here. I have Elasticsearch running down here. And all I've done, the point that I'm at is I went to elastic.co/downloads. I've downloaded version 7.8 of enterprise search and 7.8 of Elasticsearch, and I've followed the instructions. I got no further than that with a little bit of demo voodoo, I guess, sprinkled in there. I just kind of want to show you, I guess, what I'm working on and how this stuff works. Okay, so all I've done is I booted up, and this is the first start. So when I continue to log in, I'm going to actually have to. It generates a credential, which I have here. So I'm going to have to go log in for the first time. This is what anyone would see were they to be doing the same thing. Log in, and you can see, and again, the laptop kind of makes the view a bit more tricky. There's 2 products nested in this single binary. There's App Search and there is Workplace Search. So 2 very nifty tools, and we'll unpack them. I'll go pretty quickly through both of these and just hope they work. So again, live demos. So this is what we would go through if you were running something like App Search yourself, which is building a search engine. So if you need APIs to very capably handle search, this is what you do. So let's say I'm building a website to search through video games or an application. I absolutely love games. I play games all the time. So I'm making a search engine. It's called video games. I could choose my language. In this case, I speak English, and very Canadian English. I'm from Edmonton, so sorry. It's, I know, accents. In terms of uploading a JSON file, that's one of the ways you can do it. You can paste or upload some initial JSON. You can also use the API, of course. It's an API-driven product. Here's just kind of an example of how simple the indexing process looks like. You basically just point the documents at your engine, and then you can be free to index data very easily. But just for the purposes of the demo, I'm going to bring in some data that's on my local machine. I have this video games JSON file that's pretty large. I'm going to toss it in there. I'll take a second. If we go over here to see, we can see that all these indexing operations are happening up here. It's just spitting out a whole lot of very fruitful logging information telling you that, hey, you're indexing a lot of documents. So as you can see, we'll look at it doing its thing. And of course, this is my local machine and it's not terribly powerful. So it's completely flexible in terms of how fast that would be. Faster server would do this quicker and so on. So I'm going to visit the dashboard and we just play around with this data. I'm going to say yes to telemetry to help out the team. So simply you have you are greeted with an analytics view. You can see how many queries that have been done. These are just those initial queries to test, and how many documents got indexed. So we just indexed 2,800 documents, which is a fair amount. So to look at some of the core features, we won't get too deep again. I want to show you workplace search as well, because I spent so much time on it. I want to show it to the world. I think curations are pretty cool. Let's show you one of those. So create a new curation. So let's say what's a query? Let's say someone wants to search a giant video games database for Mario, and that's a big query, because if you've played a lot of video games, you know that Mario, oh man, that guy and that team have been very, very busy. So you can see there's all kinds of Mario games, you know, Super Mario, Super Paper Mario, Super Mario Maker. There's a lot here. So what curations are cool, they allow you to basically just very simply create your own result sets. So for the query Mario, how do we want to structure this? It's like, let's see, I'm going to do some dragging. So let's say these are the three Mario games that speak to me most. If you search for Mario in my search engine, I want to make sure that you see my favorites. So in that way, let's say, Super Paper Mario, I like that one being on top. What we've done is we've curated results, right? And we can keep doing this. We can stretch out the result set to make it so that if someone's searching for something, you can make sure that what they see is what you want them to see. So imagine this case, you know, you run a tea store and there's a certain deal you want to run in a tea. And if there's a query that you identify through analytics that's performing a certain way, and you maybe want to boost one of the results to help the sales curve along or something like that. That could be a very useful way to apply curations. So that's very cool. So when you start to look at a field basis, I guess, you have all these different fields in your search engine. So let's say, again, we'll do the query of Mario. So again, why is Paper Mario coming first? And why is Super Mario Maker second? And why are all these things happening? Because when you look at how, by default, I guess you could call this the relevance score is set for each of these fields, it's pretty even. Everything is just related to 1, right? So if the word Mario comes in a different field, you know, it might be giving you a different kind of view. So let's do something kind of cool. Let's say we want to find just the best Mario game. So what we can do is we can put a boost. Actually, we actually have to make a change to this. I'm going to go back. This is cool. I'm going to pause. Schemas. So we have full control over the types of our schema. So we've just indexed these documents, and by default, they're all text schemas. That's pretty cool. Let's say that we want to change things to maybe, let's make this a number. That makes sense. It's a user score and a critic score. We know these fields are going to be numbers. So we're going to update the types of our field. And this is just a reindex that we're now running. This is, you know, something that App Search handles very, very well. It's pretty neat. So it's reindexing all of the data across a new schema. So if you've done this operation at some degree of scale before, you know how kind of intensive it can be. So without any interruption, we've just changed the schema. Okay, so now, well, why did we do that? Let's see. So again, we have our query of Mario. And we want to find the best Mario. So we're going to add a boost. Sorry, my mouse is all over the map. We want to have something like I think probably a value boost. Yeah, sure. All right. No. Yes. We want to have a functional boost. So what we're going to do is we're going to have let's have a linear increase of when we have Mario as a query. Depending on how high the score is, it's going to boost the relevance, right? So we're going to have a huge impact just for the purpose of example. So we've just created a very large boost, which means that the Mario games, which are relevant to Mario, let's see, I'm going to save this. Okay. I may have forgotten how these work. It's been a while. This is my product. Don't hold this against me. But anyways, were to I have set this up correctly, it would have resorted these results based on the highest score. So the term Mario, depending on how it keyed, would have ranked the results based on the Mario, which had the highest critic score, which is a good way of just balancing results. And you can apply this basic concept to making sure the results are very correct for the type of data that you're trying to show. So the last thing I'll show here, as again, this isn't really my domain, is the reference UI. So this is pretty cool. So we're just going to use, I guess, some pretty basic fields. We're going to make sure we have a name. So we've gone in there and we've created something that you can download very easily. You can now go in and create a reference UI. And this is an open source library called Search UI is what it's based on. When you do this search, so again, you can just do Mario. This is something that you can have as your own development scaffold that you can download as an immediately hackable zip file to now start building your own experiences. So you've just tuned everything. Your boosts and whatnot have been set up correctly. The data that you want to have presented is being presented. Your results are all curated. The synonyms are there. And then bam, you can just get going with search right away. And if you're on cloud, you can feel very confident that that'll scale well. So returning home, back to my safe bubble. The world I understand, workplace search. So currently it's available on a premium license, the platinum license that we have that is just a bit more of a robust support contract. Very soon in 7.9, so the next version of the stack, most of these features will be available on a basic license, which is pretty cool. So for now, you can start a free trial. So what I want to show you is just kind of in a nutshell what this system can offer you. So I'm just going to very quickly show you what it's like to set up GitHub. So this way I'm going to configure GitHub. I'm just going to click and I've set up an OAuth app earlier in GitHub that just has permissions to look at some of my things. And this screen asks me for this client ID and client secret. I can put it in. I think I copied some notes too. I'm going to save the configuration. Great. So GitHub has been configured. I'm going to connect it. So that means it's going to ask me if it can see some of my data. I'm going to say, sure, you can look at some old Swift type stuff. That's okay with me. And then now I'm going to confirm that's the org I want and then just complete the connection. So what this is going to start doing, it's going to start syncing and adding all of the repositories and information that we have as part of GitHub. So we'll give it a second. Again, we can go see over here very shortly. We're going to get an OAuth connection to GitHub, and it's going to start indexing all of our data. So very shortly, we're going to wind up having a nice search experience built in that we can find our most common things. So imagine this, but all of your workplace tools, so your GitHub, your Confluence, your Google Drive, very many things you could have in this one single search experience. So we'll give that a second to kind of figure itself out. But in the meantime, when you consider the groups view, this is where things get really powerful. So you have a group of, or an organization of thousands and thousands of people. You can create a group for your different functions. You could create a marketing group, an engineering group, whatever it might be. And where those groups get very powerful is in access control. So you could control which groups can see which content. Maybe there's parts of your Google Drive that you don't want engineering to see or something like that. Maybe they have different relevance priorities. So if this was our engineering org, for example, we would want to boost the priority so that when they search for things, GitHub will just generally be the easier thing to receive in the results than the other content. So you can see that now we have some documents coming in, and when we go to the search experience, we can now just type in, I don't know, what's something. Yeah, well, sure, it's just giant router, random query. And this would search through all the things that we have connected. So in this way, it's just GitHub, so we just see GitHub. But now imagine that, but applied to the very many different things that you could have in your org. So in a nutshell, that's workplace search and app search. I should definitely practice that app search demo, so thanks for bearing with me. But workplace search is a very cool product and the one I work on. So anyone that would ever like to discuss that in depth or talk about search, I'd love to continue to talk about it. So really what we're trying to build here is just a complete solution for a personalized, centralized, and secure organizational search. We use it at Elastic internally, and we have a lot of very interested companies in the space that want to get on board with what we're doing. And when you think of that, we have thumbnails, a very rich search API. So if you don't want to use our search experience, you can just write your own or port these results into whichever search portal you might already have. There's just a ton of flexibility and power from having all of your organization's content in one very easily accessible place. So it provides just a pretty good out-of-the-box experience, the one that I just showed you here. This is pretty nice. It has a lot of what you need built in. We'll soon support things like Gmail and other federated type search connectors, but this is all done on an index and a query basis. So it actually indexes this content, and that's, it's very powerful to have access to that and the things that we can do with it in the future from having all your data searchable and available. At last, I'm at the slides that I understand. So something a bit different. So my role at Elastic is team lead. There's a lot of product people, a lot of compelling salespeople at Elastic that are very good at pitching the products and selling the products. I help build them and I help build teams. Again, as I said in the introduction, I'm just a guy that lives on the North Shore. And what I really want to talk to this panel about, of course, search is always on the table. I'm happy to help anyone. Is just remote work. And this might be the weirdest year of my life. The hits just keep coming in 2020. It is a dandy. In retrospect, this will be a funny one. And what I want to kind of open up the panel to is just some awareness that Elastic is a remote company and always has been. I've always worked remotely for the vast majority of my career. It's something that I find very comfortably. I now am in management remotely, so that's what a team lead is. I guess at Elastic is a senior manager. So I really miss the city and its people, and I miss going out into town. And I regret that I'm not here talking to you all in person. I could use some human contact. You know, it's a tough time to be a conscious being. But with that said, I would just like to hear from people whether they have any questions about working remotely or remote management, like team strategies, team building things, process-oriented things. If anyone would like to talk about anything like that, I'm always available. Kellen@elastic.co is my email. Again, I work on the North Shore, and if not for COVID, I would be in town. And I try not to leave the North Shore. I'm kind of one of those people. I try not to cross that bridge if I can help it. But by and large, remote working is a very big transition for a lot of people. I know some people are kind of thrust into it, and maybe some of you are in that camp, having to run teams and build products and figure things out. Not just search challenges, but remote search challenges when no one really knows what they're doing. And maybe there's a lack of security in the global climate and all of these things. So I just wanted to say that I feel all of you. You know, this is tough. Hang in there. Thanks for listening to me talk about search for a while. And I hope that I've done my job of just building a bridge, just a friendly face that is always able to talk about these things to any of you. So if there's any questions about search, we can unpack it. I'd be happy to talk about it. If there's anything about remote work, maybe we can see how Elastic does some things as a company that's pretty mature at it. And yeah, so thank you all very much for your time and coming today. I'd love to chat.
Thank you, Kellen, for the presentation. And the way you present it is a very elastic way. If anyone has any question, please make sure to post to either all panelists or all panelists and attendees, or to the Q&A. In the meantime, let me just share my screen real quick. So if you'd like to know more about other meetups that we have scheduled, please, you can join our community user group. You can find them through the QR code. We have a virtual user group that we posted this meetup that Kellen just presented. And if you would like to know more, you can join our groups and receive a newsletter for the upcoming ones. And we have 2 questions. Are you able to see them, Kelly, or do you want me to read them out loud?
Oh, I see them. Okay. Can you disable the chat function? Yeah, I know. I've actually thought very much about how to disable chat on Zoom. I don't know if you can. I don't have LinkedIn, but feel free to email me. My email, I'll put it into chat. I'm fully available if you'd like to talk about anything. We have roles open if you're interested in that kind of thing too. I'd just be happy to talk to you. And when things open up, if you wanted to just get together, I can't drink coffee. It makes me bananas, but maybe we could go for a tea or something. So please feel free to email me. I'd be happy to talk to you, anonymous attendee. Thank you for listening to me. Okay, so next question, and then I'll get to Kevin's question in chat there.
There's one question in the Q&A. Will workplace search be open source anytime?
Yeah, thank you very much for your, one sec, just get back to There, my email should be in the answered question there, anonymous attendee. Will it be open source anytime? So yes, we fully intend to open source the product. We have plans to do so, but they're just not charted yet. There's some general concerns over just a few things we have to tidy up, right? We're a pretty small team, and excuse me, we have to be careful about the volume that we're going to introduce, and different parts of workplace search are going to be open source at different times. So for example, the overall application that is enterprise search that contains app search and workplace search will be open code and available on GitHub at some time in the future. Different connectors. So when we start to build things like a connector development kit so that you can build your own, if there's let's say you've built an app similar to GitHub, like let's say you just built GitHub 2 or something like that. We're going to have marketplace tools that you can go in and start building these things on behalf of your application for the community to use and be owned as part of an open source community. So we're going to create some that are some connectors that are open to the community, right? By open source, and then we'll create some internally, but all that code will be open and all those development kits will be open. So hopefully in the next, I can't give a direct time frame, but in the shorter term, we hope to generally have the code be fully open and transparent. Okay, so I hope that was a sufficient answer. I'm very excited for it to be open source, by the way. It's to my chagrin that it is not. So Kevin says, our company is, you're very welcome. Our company is a medium-sized development solution company with Google Drive, Slack, HubSpot, Smartsheets, and a few other cloud-based tools. We hear that a lot. To index all of this, what kind of space calculations do you have to size a ballpark figure for space? That's a good question. I think that, I know that we have some resources around sizing of a deployment, and it comes down to roughly we create 2 document instances on a systems level that we have in the backend. So depending on the content you have, let's just say you have 100,000 documents. So it's kind of like there's a bit of a multiple there, and then how big those documents are. So what the different objects look like, and they tend to be pretty small, winds up giving you a space calculation. So I can get back to you if you want to email me for some more specific sizing guidelines. I know we have a couple of cool applications that we built that can help do some of that calculation on a more concrete basis. I'd have to look into those individually to get a sense of what the objects you're indexing are. But if it's just the standard type of document, then it's one thing. So you mentioned Slack as one, and that's a common one that we hear, and Gmail is one that's coming in the future. But Slack is probably something that we would look at in terms of a federated connector. So instead of indexing that data, we would leverage Slack Search API and integrate those results back into search. So in that way, you have data that is indexed, and then you have some federated sources such as Slack and Gmail, for example. So in that case, Slack wouldn't really be counted against resourcing from a storage perspective, but more just from a much more minor like memory utilization computation that we'd use to look at pricing. So most of what you mentioned are index connectors, so it would be a spacing question, but things like Slack aren't. And for a lot of people, that means probably significant net savings, because not having to index an entire Slack is just, yeah, a lot less data without really compromising the strength of the relevance of the overall result set.
There's one more question posted in the chat, Kellen. How easy is to connect Outlook files and do indexing with them?
So as of right now, we don't currently have a connector for Outlook, but it depends. So we do have the ability for you to build custom API sources. So we have our first party connectors that we've had, and we have a pretty big list of them now. I think you can just see it elastic.co/workplace-search, which is just, I believe that's the link that we have to get to something that has more of a clear list. Let me just make sure that is the actual link. Yeah, so if you follow those resources, you can see which of the first party connectors we have. But when you look at custom API sources, you can start to build your own sources, right? So depending on the quality of the Outlook Search API and what you need to do, you can very easily use the tools that we have to kind of build your own endpoints to index that data on your own behalf. Of course, you have to do some of the things that we do by magic on the first-party connectors, like making sure that you can handle deletes, and there's quite a few considerations and deduplications and things like that. But by and large, you can connect to pretty much any source that has an API, right? If you can get data from an API of one of your tools, you can build a custom API source around it. So you don't have first-party connectors, so I can't tell you how easy that would be, but if you're keen, you could probably build that on your own. Okay, I see 2 questions about app search. Can you extend Elasticsearch, say add a tokenization plugin with a language other than Java? Okay, and can schema changes, e.g. changing tokenization algorithm, be done using the dashboard? Okay, so you can, that's a good question. One that actually comes up quite a bit in our development team, which is kind of the core issue of, yeah. So the app search APIs are a separate set of APIs. So we don't currently expose the Elasticsearch APIs directly. It's a more refined set that has just a bit of a smaller window into which you can build search, whereas Elasticsearch would have all the tools that you can have and have them be fully configurable. App search has a bit more of a reduced number of those API endpoints, but the ones that we offer are much more simple, and we do a lot of pre-calibration. So we've created a set of kind of tokenization and similar parameters to provide search relevance that's just generally good for the vast majority of cases and provides generally strong relevance. So when it comes to getting directly into those things, as you mentioned, a tokenizer plugin, you can't do it today, but that's something we are discussing in terms of how we can maybe make app search an extension of the Elasticsearch APIs, but just like a separate avenue as opposed to being 2 separate APIs. So very good questions, and the documentation, which is very good and thorough, might help you answer that question a bit more. So generally, the answer to both of your questions is no. So sorry about that, but definitely interested in hearing a direct use case. If you want to email me, we can get deep into that one. So now G, are there public use cases you can talk about US federal government cases that use OK? I don't think I can talk about that, but I can say that Elastic does work with Fed contracts pretty regularly. I know that app search specifically, I'm not too sure if we've had people, or enterprise search, I guess you could say. I don't know if we've had any of those cases directly, but I know that app search has a lot of those relationships, working with very high security cases and government cases. It really depends on the need of the organizations, but generally speaking, the tools that we build are considered generally resilient, I guess, and good enough for those cases without getting into specifics. But yeah, we do Fed pretty well here as far as I understand. So thanks for asking, G.
All right, does anyone have any other question? Last call.
Anything at all? Remote work? Anything? I have to talk about whatever you want. Video games, we can go back to that. Well, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate just this break from my day-to-day. They don't let me do stuff like this often. Maybe it's obvious as to why.
Kellen, thank you so much for your presentation. Just to let everyone know, we're gonna send a follow-up email with the link with this video. So if you missed part of the presentation, or if you'd like to watch it again, please make sure you are part of the AMER user group, the virtual user group that we have at community.co at community.elastic.co. We're going to send a follow-up email through that, so you have access to the presentation that Kellen just did. If you have any questions, I'm going also to post my email here. My name is Uli. I'm responsible for community in Canada and LATAM. So if if you have any question, or if you'd like to present a meetup, or if you'd like to know more about upcoming meetup, you can send me an email and we can go from there. Yes, Kevin, I'll send you the link of our website, and then you can see the agenda for all the upcoming meetups. 1 second. So yeah, if you join our user group, like I said, then you can see the agenda, not only for the meetups scheduled for the Canadian community, but all the meetups that we have in this North American, South America time zone. But you can also even access the meetups that we're presenting in Europe and APJ. So any English meetup you can access and you can watch it. So thank you again, Kellen. Thank you everyone for joining the meetup, and hope you have all a great night. Bye.